Hello fellow doodlers. So lately I've been seeing some people do a drawing with a mouse only challenge, and I thought I'd take my hand at it. I'll be drawing one of my newer characters, Tess. She has pretty easy features for me to draw, so I decided to go easy here. The program I am using is Gimp, a free photo manipulation app or program that I actually used when I was starting out on digital art. So I'm pretty familiar with the layout and everything, but even myself, I'm still learning about all the features that it gives. However, I stuck to my comfort zone for this go-round and tried out the things that I'm familiar with. So when I was starting out with digital art, I would only color my pieces that I sketched traditionally in Gimp. I would take full advantage of a tool called the Paths tool. It's pretty simple, really. All you have to do is click around and it will create some white lines with balls on the ends. And you can mess with these lines and distort them until they fit the shape that you need. You'll see me using this quite a lot during this painting because it makes things so much easier when you don't have to zoom in real close and carefully detail every little thing. This piece did not take me too long because I didn't want to put too much effort into something that I wasn't going to particularly use in any way. Another nice thing about the Paths tool is you can make a selection from the paths that you selected, or you can stroke the path, which is where it will create a black line where you have put the paths. I used an ink tool to get line variations, which is one of the 3, maybe 4 paint tools that you can use on this program. However, the ink tool does not always stick to a preferred line length. I'm pretty sure I can mess with that. I should probably look into that a little more. But sometimes it'll make the lines way too thin and the selector won't work on them. So I'd have to go back in later and fix that and make them thicker and more definite. Halfway through, I realized that the mouse I was using was not ideal for this sort of challenge. I am using a gamer's mouse for this because that is the mouse I have on hand. Of course, I know that I could easily just climb up into the loft that I know the mouse is in and take down my mouse, but I was too lazy to do that. So if I ever do this challenge again, I am personally going to use mine. For the coloring, I simply made the selections of what I want the hair, of the face, and of the shirt, just so I would not color out of the lines. And I just used the fill bucket on a different layer to color. Of course, technically I didn't need to do this, because later on I will show you another tool that Gimp has that is actually really good. Oh gosh, I'm never going to hear the end of this from Dad. We've been having an argument going on about which is better, Gimp, this program, or Krita, the program that I would generally use to do this. So I definitely took full advantage of all the tools that this program offered. And while the selection is a lot nicer than the Krita selection, it wouldn't select the shirt for some reason. No matter what I did, it wouldn't. So what I did is I created another layer and made it a different color and just erased out all the color from the shirt so I could select it. This took so long, but when I was done, it selected and I screamed as my sister came into the room and I scared her so bad. With this program, I use minimal layers. While with Krita, I will normally do like hundreds of freaking layers. Gimp, I stuck to the basics and only did a few. The selection and the Paths tool were definitely my best friends throughout this whole process. You cannot mess with the threshold on Krita, at least I haven't found out how you can. If there is a way to mess with the threshold for selections on Krita, please tell me. It would be so useful to me. Another tool that is great for this program is the gradient tool. The gradient tool, typically you just do a straight line and it'll make a gradient from one color to another or from one color to blank. This gradient tool, you can select different modes for your gradient, and there's this really nice mode that you can make it kind of shade your picture for you. If you look closely, you'll see, especially on the hair, that there is darker on the edges and lighter on the inside, which is how I would shade things with my stickers that I make on this program. There is a brush here, however, that I made myself. It is this shine brush that I use on her eyes, and you can find a tutorial about how to make that online if you're curious about it. I used the airbrush for her blush and tried to use the blur tool to blur the edges, and it didn't get as good as I hoped it would because it's not exactly a blender. Tess lives a pretty dirty life, so I went ahead and smudged her face with dirt, but then it took me forever to find her a brush that would do her freckles. I typically draw her with 9 distinct freckles on her face, but with this it just didn't look right, so I went ahead and just sprinkled her face with them. For her hair, I definitely cheated and pulled a hair texture off online, and for her shirt I did the same thing, and I just sort of overlaid them on top of the color below. And then I took a warp tool and messed with her hair and put some more dirt, and I realized, oh well, there has to be dirt on her clothes, so I went ahead and put a little bit of dirt on her clothes and found a really nice layer mode that allowed the dirt to look a lot more natural on her shirt. As for backgrounds, I'm not much of a background artist, so I just popped in a gradient of 2 colors that I just sort of picked randomly, I guess, and popped that in there. Alright, that's all for my mouse art, I guess. That's what I'm going to call it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye!